Welcome to the webinar on Environment versus Economy, Two Sides of the Same Coin, organized by Rizvi College of Engineering. The webinar will be delivered by Professor Sudesh Agrawal. Sir has working experience of more than 6 years. He has completed Masters in Electronics and Telecommunication. His research interest is in various subjects of electronics and telecommunication, but primarily in electromagnetics. Sir has published more than 40 papers in international journals and conferences. Now I request Sir to start with his session.
All right. Thank you so much, madam, for such a wonderful introduction. Today, I have picked this topic because I feel it is very important and we'll be discussing its importance towards the end of my lecture. So to start with, I'll be sharing my screen with you all. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right. So in order to understand the topic which I have picked today, we'll be dealing with the major environmental factors that are coming into the picture, and it is affecting you, me, and it is going to affect all the future generations. So one of the major threats to the environment as of now is dealing with air pollution. So the air is polluted by various factors, by natural and man-made, but I would say that 99% of the time it is because of man-made activities. So let us say which are the factors which are affecting air as of now. So as I was talking about, the major threats to the environment today are is that we are dealing with air pollution. And let us see what are the factors that are affecting our air as of today. As I said that 99% of the time it is because of human intervention. And the first option that we are going to, the first reason we are going to see today is nitrogen dioxide. Now this gas is eliminated by various industries, let it be an electricity producing industry or manufacturing industry. And this gas is very dangerous because it is causing a lot of disorders in whenever inhalation of this gas is happening. So major disorder of this inhalation by this gas is lung cancer. Next important parameter over here is particulate matter 2.5 micrometer. Now understand what is the importance of this 2.5. The 2.5 figure written over here is less than the diameter of our human cells. So whenever we inhale this particulate matter, it passes through our lungs into our bloodstream and causes more dangerous issues like blood cancer and so on. Next two parameters which are causing a great deal of disturbance in our environment are CO2 and CH4. But in order to understand their influence, let us understand a very important term which is greenhouse effect. So what is greenhouse effect and why is it so dangerous? Let us see that our planet or our planet Earth is absent of any atmosphere. मतलब इसका मतलब हमारे पास अभी कोई भी atmosphere नहीं है. Hypothetical situation I am considering. So whatever sun rays which are hitting our planet as of this moment, it will be getting reflected back into the space and we won't be able to absorb any of the heat that we are getting because of sun rays. Now this would be disastrous because we need sunlight for photosynthesis, we need sunlight for warmth, etc. So atmosphere is utmost important. So that is why nature has provided us with an inbuilt atmosphere which starts from our surface of earth and goes till around 400 kilometers. Now what is job of this atmosphere? The job of this atmosphere is to trap some amount of heat, in itself. So because of which our planet is warming. Now, some amount of heat is utmost important for the living beings, but what is happening because of our intervention is that the level of CO2 is increasing. Now, what is CO2? CO2 is nothing but carbon dioxide. It is a gas. And because of this CO2 is very expert in heat retention. So what happens is that the amount of CO2 goes up in the atmosphere starts to retain more and more heat. And because of this heat retention, what is happening? The temperature of earth is rising. Now by how much it has risen till now? So from 1850, that is when roughly our industrial revolution began, till 2019, the temperature of earth has risen by 1 degree Celsius. Now you might say, "Kya sir, ये तो 1 degree Celsius ही है, इतना फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा." Now let me remind you that 1 degree is the difference between normal water and boiling water. Also, according to our current estimates, if this temperature, if we continue on the same pace and release carbon dioxide into our air, then by 2050, this temperature would further increase by 2 degrees Celsius. And this temperature would be enough, sufficient enough to melt all the ice which is located on the North Pole and South Pole of our Earth. Now, let me tell you that if that happens, all the sea level will go approximately about 25 to 30 meters in height, and that would be disastrous for all the population which is residing near the coastal areas. Also, let me tell you that around 95% of our population is residing near coastal areas. Hence, CO2 is very much dangerous to us. So these are the two culprits, which are CO2 and methane, which is responsible for this. Now you might ask me that how methane is responsible. So let me tell you that if CO2 is responsible for trapping 1% of heat, then methane is 28 times more efficient in trapping heat compared to CO2. So that's why we are very much worried about CO2 and methane. But since CO2 is major culprit, which is 82%, we'll be discussing majorly about CO2 today. So now we have come to know that CO2 is the main reason behind greenhouse effect. Now, how can we be sure that greenhouse effect is the one which will be affecting us? Are there any evidences available in the solar system? So yes, we have one evidence, which is our sister planet, none other than Venus. And because of greenhouse effect on this planet, let me tell you that surface temperature of this planet is more than 460 degrees Celsius. So because of this temperature, if अगर आप एक एल्यूमिनियम का रॉड लेते हो and if you keep on the surface of Venus, it will automatically melt. That is how high the temperature is on the surface of Venus. And that is because of a thick atmosphere of Venus, which is able to trap all the heat which he is getting from sun. And that is why Venus is one of the most hottest planet in our solar system. So here I have shown the key elements in the atmosphere of the Venus, and as you can see, the level of carbon dioxide is very much high, which is 96.5% in the atmosphere of the Venus. So now we have understood that carbon dioxide is our main enemy. So are we radiating carbon emissions? So let us see that in India, how many sectors are radiating carbon dioxide and in which amount. So this graph I have taken from Government of India website, and in this graph it is evident that from 1971 till 2014, approximately 50% of the carbon emission has been done by electricity sector. So all the power plants that we have seen till now, it is responsible for radiation of approximately 50% of all the carbon dioxide. Rest of the sectors are transportation, manufacturing, residential buildings, and so on. So as you can see, that level of carbon dioxide is very high because of electric sector. So let us see that why in electric sector carbon dioxide level is very high. Okay, this is the reason that in electric sector carbon dioxide emission is very high, because as of 2015 we have been using approximately 70 to 75% of fossil fuels in order to generate electricity in our country. And this is the reason why carbon emission is so high from this sector. But now we also need electricity for majority of our sectors. That means our economy is very much dependent on fossil fuels as of 2015. So let me tell you an equation, and I need you to remember this equation, that our economy is very much dependent on fossil fuels. And why fossil fuels? Because our electric sector is very much dependent upon fossil fuels. Now, as we can understand that during the lockdown, many of these sectors were shut down. So naturally, our economy has been affected. But has it affected our environment? And in what way? In positive way or in negative way? Let us see that. So what are the effects of lockdown? So here I have shown a graph where I have done a CO2 level comparison between last year in the month of April and this year in the month of April. And we have seen that level of CO2 has went down considerably. So as you can see from this graph, the sector of aviation has resulted in decline in CO2 emission by almost 60%. So that is very high in the level of decrement. But you might say कि यार sir हम लोग बच गए, but remember that we are spreading carbon dioxide since 1850 and ये खाली 1 या 2 महीने का lockdown है. So the damage we have done is far too much greater than this decrement in the levels. Hello, am I audible? Further, what are the effects of lockdown towards our environment? Let us see. This data I have taken from Copernicus satellite from NASA, and here I am comparing the levels of NO2 in the month of January in this year and in the month of April in this year. So the orange part which you can see on the screen are the busiest cities of our country, and they are continuously emitting nitrogen dioxide, which I told you earlier that it is very much harmful to our lungs. So as you can see in the lockdowns, as major cities have experienced lockdown, they have stopped radiating nitrogen dioxide. So what about this part of our country, which is still radiating nitrogen dioxide on a very high level? What is that? Let us see what is that. That is nothing but the power plants which are situated in the states of Chhattisgarh, and these power plants are responsible for radiation of nitrogen dioxide. So yes, from the chart we can see that environment is thriving with the effect of lockdown. But again, from the previous chart we saw that since many of these sectors were closed down, namely all the manufacturing industries or aviation sectors, our economy has went down. So I have developed these two rough equations that our economical balance is very much dependent upon non-renewable sources, which are fossil fuels. But on the same hand, our environmental balance is inversely proportional to this economical balance. So what is our job as an engineer? Our job as an engineer is to break this equation. And how do we break this equation is by use of renewable fuel sources. Now let us understand that since my childhood, when I first came to know about solar power, कि solar power से हम लोग को जरा भी pollution नहीं होता है and all, I was like, if everyone in this world knows that if we make use of solar power, then we'll be eliminating all the pollution in this world. Why are we doing that? Why aren't we harvesting 100% of our energy requirement from the solar energy? So the answer is that we cannot, I emphasize on this word, we cannot be dependent on renewable sources 100%. Understand the reason that all the renewable sources which are available with us right now, for example, solar or hydro or wind, they are having one, what I can say, one lacking power, and that lacking is variation of its intensity. For example, sunlight or intensity of the sun is not constant throughout the day. For example, we have it during daytime, but during nighttime, we don't have our solar power. Similarly, during various seasons, the intensity of the sun is varying rapidly. Hence, during some time, we might fulfill our electricity requirements, but while other time, we won't be able to fulfill that. And in order to thrive the economy, we need the electricity 24/7. Hence, this is the reason we cannot be dependent upon renewable sources. So what to do? Now, the solution to this is that we divide our energy requirement into two parts. One part we will be taking from conventional means, and the second part we will be taking from renewable means. So here I have shown a table. I have taken a number, and this number is approximate requirement of India electricity by India by 2025. So 550 gigawatts would be required by India till 2025. So I have taken a ratio of 60-40, and we have come up with a number of 340 gigawatts and 210 gigawatts. Now, this 60-40 ratio is dependent upon various other factors like position of the country with respect to equator, how much solar energy they are getting, what is the speed of wind in that region, what is the amount of water which is available, what are the number of dams, etc. So this number can vary from country to country. So as we can see, as of 2020, in this number, we have generated 27 gigawatts from solar energy. We have generated 36 gigawatts from wind energy and 48 gigawatts from hydro energy. Hence, in order to sum this, I will roughly get a number of 110 gigawatts. So, as a role, as an engineer, what I want you to tell you that there is still 100 gigawatts to go in order to make our country sufficient in terms of renewable energy. Now, how to do that? So I have come up with some solutions, which may be some possible solutions. If you have more suggestions, then we can discuss them during Q&A session. So this is the first solution that I've come up with, that we cover some part of Thar Desert, which is our own desert located in Rajasthan with solar panels. Now, in order to put this into perspective, the desert is largely uninhabited by our Indian population. And hence, since the desert is also getting a lot of sunlight, we will be able to generate a good amount of electricity over there with the help of solar panels. Now, just imagine if this technique comes through, then Thar Desert is just a baby in front of Sahara Desert. So on a global scale, if we can implement the same technology on Sahara Desert, which is having an area of roughly 92 lakh kilometer in front of our own desert, which is only 2 lakh kilometer. So just imagine how much electricity we would be able to generate from the Sahara Desert and how it would be helpful to the rest of the world. Next possible solution is emphasis on rooftop solar. Now, what is this method? This method is to install solar panels over the roof and on the windows of various top buildings or various buildings in our country. By this, all the electricity bill of our various sectors will come down. Now, obviously, the installation would be very costly as of now, but in the long run, it will pay off since we do not have to pay a single rupee for all the energy that we will generate from the solar power. Next is, again, as we move above the surface of Earth, we all know that speed of wind goes on increasing. So the next part which we can do is installing wind turbines on top of taller buildings. We can give more emphasis to hydropower generation. We can invest in building of more dams, etc. Now, this point might be controversial for you all. So understand that since I came to know about nuclear power generation, all the people used to tell me that, oh, nuclear, ye bahut dangerous hai. Nuclear matlab Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So understand, those are nuclear bomb. Those are dark past in our history, and we hope that it won't happen again. But nuclear power, okay, they again say, "Arey baba, nahi, nuclear power nahi, ye to Chernobyl ho gaya." So let me tell you once again that Chernobyl was because of human error. It was not because of the mistake of uranium. Let me just explain you how powerful a block of uranium can be. Okay, imagine you're holding a block of uranium the size of a Rubik's Cube. Everyone has played Rubik's Cube, it is about this size. So just imagine you're holding a block of uranium of this size in your hand. This size of uranium is capable of powering entire population for 1 month. Entire population. I repeat, entire population of 7.5 billion people for 1 month. So just imagine how much power a single block of uranium holds. And moreover, nuclear power is very clean energy. It does not affect our air and it does not cause any pollution at all. So of course, whenever there are some solutions, there are some issues to be addressed in those solutions. And some of those issues are, how do we transport that power from one location to another location? So suppose I am generating my electricity in Thar Desert. How Thar Desert is located in northwest part of our country. So how do we transport this power from Thar Desert to rest of the world or rest of the country for now? So for that, we would be requiring huge amount of transmission line. And that transmission line is nothing but wire. As an engineer, a very layman engineer also knows that a wire consists some amount of resistance. And because of that resistance, if I follow I square R rule, then there are going to be power losses in that wire. More the amount of distance, more the amount of power loss. And hence it is our utmost priority to understand this issue and reduce this issue so that we can transport our power without any losses. Second issue which I want to address is power surge. Now, what do I mean by power surge? I have already covered this, that whenever the intensity of solar varies or the intensity of wind the speed varies, then the power surge will happen, and hence we need to pay a lot of attention towards this. Third issue which I want to address upon is how do we store that power which we have just received from the solar panels. So as of now, the solar batteries are very costly as compared to the conventional lithium ion batteries which we are using as of now. Now, again, the cost of installation of solar panels and batteries are very high in India. Water scarcity. Now, remember why I took this point is that whenever we install solar panels on any surface, according to the law, it is mandatory for us to wash that solar panel at least twice in a week. Now, this is important because if we don't do that, because of dust settlement on the solar panel, its intensity of absorbing the sunlight will go down, and hence thereby reducing the overall efficiency of the solar panel. Obviously, we need to understand that nuclear power is very safe, and thereby you as upcoming engineers, it is your duty to understand that nuclear energy or nuclear power generation is very safe. Currently, we have set up 3 nuclear reactors in India, and if we can increase that number, then it will be a very useful way of generating energy from conventional. Also, the development of smart grid technology. Now, this is another important point wherein suppose I require 10 megawatts of energy daily, but I am utilizing only 8 megawatts. तो बाकी का 2 megawatt loss ना हो and वो किसी जरूरतमंद को मिल जाए. So this technology is called a smart grid technology, which can understand the power requirements of various users and thereby distribute the power consciously. So now to talk about some career opportunities in this field, there are various government sector and private sector companies which are currently working on renewable sources, some of which I have listed on the screen. These companies regularly update their websites regarding the job openings in them. And as of yesterday also, there were a few job openings in National Institute of Solar Energy, which is available on your screen. So you can go on this website and apply for job. So yeah, with this, I would like to end my seminar, but I would like to give you all a message. Now, many of my colleagues and students who have interacted with me, they all know me as a technical person. So when I pick this topic, then many of you might be wondering कि सर ने ये topic क्या लिया है? ये topic तो technical नहीं है. हम लोग थोड़ा EVS जैसा topic नहीं expect कर रहे थे सर से. Okay. So I want you to pass this message that understand this, that it is my duty to teach you technical stuff, but it is also my duty to teach you the danger that humanity is facing as of now, the danger that humanity and the future generation will face tomorrow. As a engineer, it is your duty to save the humanity, but also to earn money. So hence I have selected such a topic which will help you not only to earn money, but also to save the humanity. It is our responsibility of RISV College of Engineering, not only to make you the best engineer, but also to make you a better human being by saving the humanity, by solving all the problems that humanity is facing. So keeping the motto of RISV College of Engineering, RISV Education Society, humanize, equalize, and spiritualize, I would like to end my seminar and open the stage to my audience so that they can converse and clear their doubts. Thank you.
Sir, there are some questions from students.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
One by one. Yes, sir, can we extract energy from the force of waterfall?
From the force of waterfall? Oh yes, actually, this is the technique which they are replicating in hydropower station, wherein the water which is collected by the dam is set out and it falls on the turbines. So yes, definitely we can extract energy from the force of waterfall, but the volume of water has to be very large in that case. So not all waterfall in country have large volume of water. So I guess we can extract power from Niagara Falls, but we don't have that in our country. So.
Okay. Sir, one more question about nuclear waste.
Yes,
What
madam.
about the nuclear waste which we have to handle?
Okay. As I said that nuclear power is very clean source of energy. That means it does not release any type of pollution in the air. But yes, we do have to deal with nuclear waste. And currently there are many upcoming technologies that are being learned by us, by the various scientists around the world in order to deal with the nuclear waste. One suggestion that they have come through is to bury the nuclear waste so that it does not cause any issue. But yes, more research is required on this.
Sudesh, one question.
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Uh, Thar Desert, as far as I know, I mean, no doubt it has ample of sunlight which can be converted into solar energy, but it also has a sandy soil. So, is that not the biggest obstacle to construct and deploy the big solar panels because of the soil?
Yes, madam. We would have to first construct a very rigid platform. Over that, we would have to install the solar panels. And in addition to that, all the sandstorms that we will be facing because of sand dunes and all, the cleaning of the solar panels would be a great
Yes.
issue because of this.
Yes.
But if we can figure that out, then it will be an amazing platform for installing the solar panels, because that land is not used by anyone. So it would be, fruitful for us.
Sir, we have more questions.
Yes, madam.
Um, Sir, what about the conversion efficiency of nuclear?
As far as I know, the conversion efficiency of nuclear power was more than 80%, but currently it is going more up and up. So let us hope for more efficiency from nuclear power plants.
The next question is, research by University of Technology of Finland has found that India may have the capacity to operate on fully renewable electricity system by 2050. Sir, what are your thoughts on this? And is it possible with the current advancement in this field?
See, until and unless we come to a conclusion wherein we are able to store the solar energy and we can use that solar energy 24/7, I don't think that any country in this world will be fully renewable. Let me give you an example on this, that the country of France, as of yesterday, it was 97% fully functioning on renewable sources. But if you dig in more into that graph, around 77% of that energy is again coming from nuclear plants. So fully renewable, I don't think it will be possible based on current advancements.
The next question is, as a computer engineer, how can I use my skills to contribute to this?
Okay, now there comes a statement by our very beloved Gajre sir, that first you have to master in your field, and then you have to see that how you can contribute to the other fields. So if you can become a master in your field by making apps, by building websites, then for sure in this sector also, you will be able to help by building websites for various electrical companies to judge how much energy every consumer is using, remaining energy, how you can distribute among the rest of the users, etc. So yes, you would have to develop web pages and applications over there also, but relevant to this field. And don't worry, because I've seen many times students pondering upon कि सर हम लोग ये कंपनी में क्या करेंगे, हम लोग का तो कुछ काम ही नहीं है ये कंपनी में. ऐसा नहीं होता. Every company is built on every engineer. So ऐसा कभी भी नहीं होगा कि computer engineer is only responsible for running an entire business. He would sometime require experts from different fields. So.
The next question is, wind turbines are installed on tallest buildings. Is this dangerous?
Yes, it is dangerous, but if we take upon the special type of wind turbine, which is vertical axis wind turbine, if you have attended yesterday's lecture, then it won't be as dangerous as horizontal axis wind turbine.
Sir, next question, do we have any ideas on how to minimize the use of plastic bags and styrofoam boxes?
Okay, for that question, you would have to analyze your household and see how much plastic items you have got. So it is much of a personal choice, and we first have to understand that plastic is causing damage to our environment. It is not some other planet's environment. It is our environment. And in order to save our environment, we have to work and we have to develop a conscience so that we stop the use of plastic altogether.
So two more questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thar Desert is 77,000 meters square, and thus, if we cover both of it with solar panels, can we generate a maximum of 15.4 megawatts in a day, which is very less as compared to.
My dear, your calculations are wrong. As far as my calculation, Thar Desert is 2 lakh kilometer, and if we cover only 20,000 square meters in that, or 20,000 square kilometers in that, then we will be able to power our entire country. So kindly check on those figures once again.
The last question is, sir, can moving vehicle like train directly use wind to charge their batteries?
Once again, transportation of power would come into the picture over here. Because moving vehicle can charge their batteries. Okay, the wind turbines which are located in various part of the country, we would have to transport the power in close proximity to our railway stations, and from there we can transport the energy to charge their batteries. No issue in that. Okay, there is one question. It is said that Earth crosses 1.5 degrees. There is no point of coming back, and we cannot stop global warming. That is not 1.5 degrees actually, that is 3 degrees if I'm correct, and I saw the data on NASA websites yesterday and day before yesterday also. So we are currently facing at 1 degrees, and even if it is 1.5 degrees, we still have 0.5 degrees. Understand that it took us 150 years to reach to 1 degree. So I believe that we have at least 20 to 30 years to cross that 0.5 degrees mark. So you are our future generation, change the world in 20 to 30 years.
Okay, sir. Now there are more questions. Sir, your view on cost constraints with renewable energy as compared to conventional energy. And secondly, your view on safety measures related to it.
So cost constraints with renewable energy compared to conventional energy. Yeah, that's what I talked about, that installation of solar panels and various other instruments to extract energy from wind speed. Those are very costly as of now. But as we can see that the cost of solar panels from 2012, it has come significantly down. So with the advances, solar panel is basically made up of silicon chips. So with the advances in transistor technology and VLSI technology, I hope I'm very much eager to see the cost of solar panels to come further down. What is your view on safety measures related to it? I guess the safety measures would be same, earthing a solar panel so that voltage spikes does not hurt us.
Thank you very much, sir, for solving the doubts of students also.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.